Thank you so much, Artur, for coming to our conference. How do you find Romania, and how do you find a conference in Romania after a couple of years since your first presence?
I love the city already. It's my first time in Oradea, but I love the city very much. It's a beautiful city center and all the surroundings. So.
Oh, you had time to walk?
Yeah, I had 2 hours of my free time yesterday. Yeah, so I just take a short look at the city, and I like it very, very much. And the people here and everywhere in Romania are very friendly and very. With great
hospitality.
Hospitality, yeah. Exactly. Yeah, so I like it very much.
We are known for this trait, for this characteristic.
Yeah, I think it's more or less with Polish people as well.
And we have some history together, so
exactly. Yeah,
it's true. Talking about history together, could you find some things that Romanian transporters and Polish transporters have in common, and things that are different in Romania and in Poland?
Well, what we've got in common, I would say that we suffer a lot from all the changes that are being made in Brussels. I mean the EU legislation, because it usually do not touch that much Western countries and Western companies, and it has a very big effect on Polish, Romanian or Bulgarian hauliers. I mean Central Eastern Europe hauliers, which are the most affected, I would say. The most affected, maybe also peripheral countries from Europe, like, I don't know, Spain, Portugal or Greece. But I would say that in not that much as we from Central Eastern Europe, yeah.
And maybe Romania more than Poland? Maybe. In some points.
That could be possible because you have a little bit further to the city center, I would say, of the road transport market in Europe. Because this is very, very interesting example. If you could take a peek at our report from, I think it was 2019 or 2020 about the mobility package. Report prepared by Professor Peter Klaus from Germany, very well-known expert on road transport. He summarized it very well about the road transport market and the density of it geographically. This is a shape of banana that starts from southern East England or the UK through the Benelux countries, western and southern Germany, northern Austria and northern Italy. And the shape of banana, this is the most concentrated market of road transport. So from our perspective, from Poland, to get there, it is more or less, let's say from western part of Poland, that would be like 500 kilometers more or less to get there.
It's a huge country.
Yeah, but 500 more or less kilometers from Poland to there. And from Romania, that would be much further, like 800, 1,000 kilometers to get there, to find the best loads, to find the best goods to be delivered. So
good prices also.
Yeah, of course, because everybody wants to travel there, to deliver goods there. This is, as I mentioned, the most concentrated place in Europe when it comes to road transport. So, yeah, you have a little bit greater distance, I would say, than our hauliers from Poland. Yeah, so that would be a main difference in that. And you need to travel across mountains, and you are still waiting for the new roads to be built. Luckily, we have a lot new roads nowadays in Poland, and the road transport network is very well developed now.
It's true. Yeah, this is one of the main problems in Romania. That's why we meet here at the border, at the western border, not in Bucharest.
Yeah, but you have some roads being built.
We started to have them.
Yeah, and it helps a lot. When it comes to road transport, the road transport network is essential for everyone. For road transport, of course, but when you build new roads, the infrastructure comes along. Of course, new warehouses, new hubs, terminals, production companies, everyone involved in different way in transportation. would be happy to be located close to the main roads.
Of course, yeah. And maybe it's what the European institution want to transport a lot of goods by train, and just the first and the last mile by road.
Yeah,
by
and
truck.
Believe me, a lot of our member companies are interested a lot in rail transportation and rail terminals. Some of them even invested in their own terminals. One of our companies even invested in their own train drivers and train stations, both in Poland and in Western Europe. So the trailers are being delivered to the station terminal, railway terminal in Poland, and it is taken by train, delivered to western part of Europe, and then taken by another truck. So, yeah, in my opinion, there is a place for everyone, railway and road transport as well. It is obvious that it's not possible for rail to deliver everything where trucks go. This is not possible. That's obvious. And there is another thing. On a railway, you usually transport different type of goods. Bulk goods or loose goods, like, I don't know, coal, sand, whatever but heavy goods and that are being transported in bulk. Those things are usually do not being transported by road on long distances. Maybe if you build something on short distance, you will use a truck, but on a long distance, you will use a train. Yeah, and there is a place for everyone and for both branches, I would say, of transport.
Yeah. I could think about another difference between Poland and Romania. I think that you produce a lot more, and because we don't produce a lot of goods in Romania, it's very difficult to get a good price to leave Romania with a truck and go to Europe, where the volumes are, as you said. So, how do you feel the trend of the production in Poland during the last year? Because you've had some challenges, of course, like everybody else in Europe.
Challenge is a good word, a very polite one. Yeah, that's very true.
Do you still produce a lot, or not as much as before?
Yeah, I've read some statistics that the production in some branches diminished in comparison to previous years. Yeah, so I think that the whole idea and the whole legislation that comes with the Green Deal impose on everyone, private persons, but especially on companies producing anything at all, such high energy prices and energy costs that some of them are not able to be competitive anymore. So this is a big challenge, as you mentioned, because energy costs and energy prices across Europe and in Poland especially, they have risen enormously. So we hear, unfortunately, and we can observe a lot of great and big factories hiring hundreds, sometimes thousands of people being closed or diminishing their production. So this is definitely not a good effect from usually from the Green Deal in general, not the one piece of legislation, not the one directive or the other, but the whole package. Yeah.
Yeah, it's true. What do you think that are the biggest challenges or problems, how do you prefer, for the Polish transporters right now?
Well, in this case, I can refer to our latest report, because one of our tasks is to prepare very well and fact-based and data-based reports on road transport in Poland and in relation to European Union. So January this year, we presented a brand new report called Road Transport Market in Poland 2024-2025. And as a part of this preparation of this report, there was a survey among over 100 representatives of Polish road transport companies. And there were different questions asked to those representatives. And one of them concerned challenges. The main challenges that those experts see in coming 2 years.
Oh, so I'm asking you what you asked them.
Yeah. As a matter of fact, yeah. But in our opinion, that was the best option, to ask the experts themselves. They know best.
Of course.
What are the main challenges to them? Take a guess. What was their number one?
Drivers?
No.
Costs?
Costs. Drivers' costs and costs of running a business in general. After the mobility package, the cost drivers rose enormously in Poland. It was fully implemented, and very often they can be compared, or if not compared, then very close to the Western salaries of drivers. And it doesn't change a thing if you ask about Polish drivers or non-Polish drivers, because we have a lot of drivers from outside the EU. The salary
much more than Romanian. Maybe it's another difference. We don't have yet so many drivers from outside Europe.
Yeah, that is possible. So there is no difference between the salaries. A driver is a driver, no matter which country her is coming from. So the salaries in road transport, in international road transport, are very good, very competitive, I would say. They are much higher than the average salary in other branches of the industry in Poland.
In Romania also,
they are higher, but we know very well that the job of a driver is a very difficult one. It's not an easy job, but as a fact, salaries are higher than the average. And all the costs, and again, drivers, energy, running a business and everything, fuel and so on, inflation.
Even trucks, they are more expensive, or at least they were more expensive last year. Maybe the prices started to decrease.
A little bit, but when you take a look at the number of registration of new trucks, and they went down as well. It's in general by 15-20% or something like that year to year. So this is also an effect of the crisis, because experts call it the biggest crisis last 2 years in road transport sector. Experts call it the biggest crisis in the past 20-25 years. There were different crises. There were smaller, bigger, but not as big as this one. And this one is connected to everything, to war in Ukraine, to Green Deal, and in general climate ideas and climate requirements put on everyone, to be honest, on everyone.
So this is the main problem, the main challenge?
Cost? Provided by the experts. And there are two more I would like to talk about. Those are unfair competition and adapting to the mobility package and EU rules in general.
Unfair competition from
everywhere.
From other everywhere. Countries or
from everywhere.
Inside Poland?
We are one of the fewest organizations that say that there is a unfair competition, not only in Poland but in other countries as well.
What do you mean by unfair?
Those who do not obey the rules.
Okay.
Simple as that. For example, just like a tachograph manipulation, using 2 drivers' cars instead of one, tachograph, different type of tachograph manipulations, not fulfilling the rules on the driver's salary. Some of the companies from different countries still pay the so-called salary under the table. There is some official salary and the rest under the table. And we talk about it, that kind of behavior shouldn't take place on an EU market.
The problem is bigger than a couple of years ago, or it's smaller?
Some experts say it is bigger, and our reports confirm that, because in our previous report that was published, I think more or less 18 months ago, this problem, unfair competition, had the final result of the survey was like 7.8 or 7.9 on a scale 1 to 10, and in this year's report, the latest one, it was over 8.
Oh.
So it was even bigger than the previous survey. So people see, especially those who obey all the rules and adapt to the rules, pay higher costs of everything. There are still companies who do not do that.
Yeah.
So this is unfair competition to them. If you manipulate or cheat on drivers and resting times, that is obvious. Rules are the same for everyone. Driver can drive, in general, of course, 9 hours a day, take a rest, and so on. If you cheat on that, you know. If you need to deliver good, I don't know, from Bucharest to Madrid, you need like 4 days of driving. If somebody cheats on that, they can say, okay, I would deliver in 3 days.
Yeah.
So how can you win a tender or anything, or win this single even order if somebody offers to the shipper fastest delivery time?
And the use of truck is more efficient.
Of course,
if
you compare
work
it,
more hours in a day.
If you obey all the rules, you can make an average, I would say, 10,000-11,000 kilometers a month per truck. Yeah. If you cheat, you can make 1,500 kilometers, or even more. So how can you again compete with things like that? This is unfair competition that should be checked everywhere, in every single EU country, on a road, and also at the premises of the companies.
Which are the chances to solve this problem? Who is responsible for that? The control institution.
Again, enforcement institutions.
Yeah.
Look at the mobility package and, for example, posting of drivers' rules. Who controls them on daily basis in Europe? Do you hear any information about checks on posting of drivers in different countries, that those during that check that it was discovered that and that, during that check it was discovered? No, we do not hear stories like that. We are aware about 1 or 2 countries who do the checks on posting on drivers, and that's it.
Yeah,
among 27 EU member states.
Do you do in Poland such control?
We hear that our inspection do it, but to what degree, to what scale, I do not have specific information. But I mean, there is a general problem. Over the years, especially on the EU level, a lot of new pieces of legislation have been introduced, but they do not. But there is no, as a follow-up, there is no enforcement of these new rules. In general, I am talking in general. Yeah. We have new pieces every several months or years or something, but with no enforcement, we have the situation what we have.
Yeah. A couple of minutes ago, I was talking to a representative of one of the biggest transport companies in Romania, HSS. Belgium is a region.
They are based in Poland as well.
And one of the things he told me was that they decreased the fleet because they started to have a model respecting the legislation of returning the truck to the country, but then it was abolished, so they didn't need to respect it anymore, but they already prepared the model and they couldn't change it again. So it was a problem and they had to decrease the fleet.
Unfortunately, the compulsory return of trucks to their home base is one of those examples of bad legislation.
Yeah.
So European Court of Justice admitted that
it was unfair, or
but
it was not normal.
It was almost 4 years.
Yeah. And some companies respected it, and some not.
Not necessarily. And again, either they weren't checked, either the fines were so small that they continued to do that.
What do you think about this decision about abolishing the...
In this case, that is the only one option, the only one solution possible. Maybe you know, because I do not know, our companies do not know what was behind it, what was about the effective use of trucks. When you are forced to direct the truck home just because the legislation says so.
Empty or
not empty, no matter what, you need to drive where the legislation says and not where the client says, for example.
They just didn't want us there.
It had nothing to do with effective use of trucks and nothing to do with the care about the environment, because that made a lot more of empty runs. Empty runs, the general level in the EU is like 20%.
Yeah.
I mean the general. In some countries higher, in some lower. But in general, 20%, that's a lot of empty runs by trucks.
It's huge.
And by producing this kind of legislation, they only make the problem bigger instead of trying to diminish it. This is definitely no. Any restriction on cabotage, again, this so-called cooling off period, again, this is against effective use of trucks,
and drivers.
You are not able to use this truck for 4 days in this country and that. Come on. Let the business owners
decide what's best and more efficient.
And run their businesses. We have a lot of legislation on road transport on dozens of different aspects. Introducing new legislation is not a good option.
It's another burden.
And enforcing the existing one, I mean the legislation, that is the solution.
Yeah, it's true. A lot of associations talk about the same thing. We have enough law, just obey and just control.
Exactly. And law is the same for everyone, yeah? The problem is if somebody is not obeying that.
Yeah.
He should be targeted, checked accordingly.
So you mentioned 2 challenges. Do you want to mention another one, or we?
Was it? We talked already about unfair competition, prices, and I think we covered also the thing about the EU legislation.
Okay, so these are.
Yeah. So those are, and you and everyone can find it in our report. It is available to download in English from our website. So TLP.org.pl. There is a part called reports. You can easily download it and read it in English. You will find a lot of useful information when it comes to road transport market in Poland and in comparison to the EU.
Okay. Thank you so much again for the information and for your time. But if you want, before finishing it, could you tell me some things about the smart tacho 2 on the Polish market? Do you have all the trucks with new tachographs installed, or do you have some transport companies, I don't know, not having time to do this? Do you have a crisis of pieces or of equipment? Do you have a price increase because they don't have enough devices?
I can tell you that I spoke, I think 2 weeks ago, to one of the manufacturers of tachographs that is present in Poland. He said to me there is no bigger problem on the prices or the availability of tachographs in Poland. You can buy it, and the price, they didn't went up that much as somebody could predict it, they say. So good. Most of our companies, because in our case, our members are the biggest company. They were very well aware about this. We've been talking about it in advance.
Okay.
Yeah, because the legislation on the exchange or retrofit of tachographs was published in July 2020 with all the dates that to introduce and retrofit tachographs. So our companies were very well informed and they were prepared on time. But of course, our market, and in many different countries in Europe, the road transport market, usually the biggest number of companies are the smallest one.
Yeah, of course, in Romania this is the case.
Exactly. And with those small companies, it's sometimes about money, sometimes about time, sometimes about being aware of a new legislation. So they sometimes struggle.
Or some
with
of them just waited till the next.
That's also true. There are companies who wait, for example, okay, I know there is a date set for retrofit, but oh, maybe they will prolong it, they will change
this was
something. There is something
this was
in the
main
minds of some
problems,
companies. So we can divide it in two now, because there was a first date, like the 31st of December 2024, for the oldest, let's say, trucks that were registered for the first time before June 2019. So and in case they travel internationally on the EU territory.
So they
because
did it,
domestically they do not need to change it.
Yeah,
Those who travel internationally on EU level, EU territory, I didn't hear about bigger complaints, I would say, from the Polish hauliers. I think most of them adapted and did it on time, and they travel across Europe now. But we have also another date, that is 18th of August this year. So in 3-4 months, right? And this is something I do not understand, because this date is set for the vehicles to be retrofitted with tachographs, the vehicles registered for the first time between June 2019 and August 2023. So we are talking about vehicles and tachographs that are 2-3 years old.
Very new.
So they are brand new. There is nothing wrong about them. And what?
Just
again,
some applications plus
hauliers are forced to retrofit it, to exchange it with brand new tachographs. They have 2 or 3 years old tachographs. They need to put it on a shelf and install another one and pay for it. And what is the benefit for the haulier to have a brand new tachograph instead of 2 years old tachograph?
Which is quite new.
There is no such a difference for a haulier, and they need to pay for that a lot of money. What about the environment? If we need to exchange something that works, that is almost brand new, we need to take it off and install something new again and pay for it. What will happen with these old tachographs? So
you don't see something logical in this
in this situation? No, there should be more time for this second part, I would say, of tachographs. I mean because those vehicles that we are talking about, they have already smart tachographs, but version 1. So they are connected to, they have the connection with GPS and so on.
Just
and
that you have to write not to pass automatically the
Exactly.
The
so this is another burden put on the hauliers, another cost for hauliers in this very difficult and turbulent time. They need to spend a lot of money on something that would not bring them
a value or something.
Any additional value. No, I do not see that. So that kind of pieces of legislation shouldn't take place, in my opinion. They should be more reasonable, I would say.
Did you write to the European Commission, to the institution of European Union about this? Because I know that during the time you made a lot of complaints.
During the time, we were very active when it comes, when the mobility package in general was in a phase of a project.
You had a strong position against
Firstly, I don't know if you are aware or if many people is aware that the project on the mobility package project presented firstly by the European Commission was changed significantly on the level of the European Parliament and the Council.
I know the negotiation.
So finally, we have maybe not a completely, but a very different piece of legislation at the end, in comparison to what was proposed by the European Commission. So